Coming up in today's show, Xbox is shaking up things with Game Pass, and people are upset. Plus, later on in the show, we've got a special interview with the GM of EVO 2024, what fighting game fans can expect from this year's tournament. What's good, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the What's Good Games podcast, your source for video game news, commentary, analysis, and funny stuff every Friday. I'm one of your hosts, Andrea and Riana, joined by Mrs. Riana Manuel-Peña.
Yeah, I'm excited for EVO. I gotta say, I'm really looking forward to hearing your interview because I haven't ever been, but I hear that it's more and more welcoming to fans and people who maybe can't play fighting games so well, but are huge supporters. So
absolutely. Oh my gosh, EVO is incredible. We'll talk more about it a little bit later on. And EVO is happening next week, by the way. So if you guys want to, don't forget every episode of What's Good Games comes with timestamps and audio chapters and video chapters, I should say, on YouTube. So please use those to your advantage if you want to jump ahead and listen to one thing in particular. That tool is there for you, everybody. Big thank you to this month's super producers, Faris Attieh, Punkdefied, Justin Foshee, and Joshua Franklin. And thank you to everybody who is supporting us at what'sgoodgames.supercast.com, where you can get the show ad-free. So if you don't like listening to ads, you can go on over there. We've got a great show for you today. We've got some fun, air quotes, Xbox news to talk about, which we'll be getting to in just a second. But I want to let you know today's show is also brought to you by Shopify, Golden Nugget Online Casino, and Boot.dev. But I'll tell you more about them later. Riana, the internet is ablaze.
Oh, boy.
With Xbox news once again. Boy, have they had a roller coaster of a year.
Yeah, I mean, my heart goes out to the folks over there working on messaging because it's just not hitting the way it needs to.
No, it ain't.
What they call a clusterfuck.
Yeah, so this week, Windows Central was the first to break the story about tier changes coming to Xbox Game Pass. Microsoft has since confirmed these changes. And not shocking to anybody, it includes a price hike. I think every subscription service is hiking their prices right now. It's like we can't keep paying for all of these things. In my preparation for this story in this week's episode, Riana, I did a little research into what's been going on with subscription models, particularly here in the United States, and just why the heck everything and everybody needs a subscription these days. And what I learned is that the average American has around $200 to $300 worth of subscriptions they pay for every single month.
That feels about right.
It does, but also it's like wait, excuse me, how much? And this does not include things like a gym membership. This includes just like intangible goods.
Like content. Oh, Lord. That's about right when I think about it, which is part of the problem, right? And you have whole apps dedicated to figuring out how many subscriptions you aren't thinking of, so you can try to control your spending a little better, which is a challenge for everybody these days. But geez Louise, it's tough. Times are stressful for everybody, and so escapism is definitely on the menu for most people. But geez, it's tough to keep up with all the things you want to look at and play, and geez, like nickeling and diming is not fun. And I understand that the bottom line is what it is, but it just feels bad.
It does. It feels bad. I think what it boils down to is consumers deciding for themselves, hey, I can't afford all of these things anymore. What are the things that I want to put my money into, that I'm using the most, and that I'm going to get the most value out of? Something we are going to be discussing in this story. So first, let's get to the news of what happened. Xbox Game Pass is changing. They're having one of their tiers being shuttered completely, and then one tier is going to be phased out over several months. On Xbox's own website, they posted an update that says starting July 10th, 2024, so now, if you're listening to the show, changes are coming. Price changes will go into effect for new members of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, Xbox Game Pass Core, and PC Game Pass. Game Pass for console will no longer be available to new members. Members who are already subscribed to Game Pass for console and have automatic payment renewal enabled will be able to continue to enjoy their membership. A new Game Pass option called Xbox Game Pass Standard will become available in the coming months. These changes will enable us to bring more members, more value, and more great games to Game Pass. So let's just stop there for a second and talk about the price increase.
Yeah.
How do you feel this is going to be reflective of the overall sentiment, not just, the people who are popping off this week, but the broader Game Pass community, knowing that Xbox has already said that the vast majority of Game Pass subscribers are on Ultimate?
It seems like for most people who do see an increase, it's $5, right? Like the basically $5. And it's kind of high. I'm not going to lie. It sounds small when you think, oh, it's just $5 a month. But like, keep in mind, this is something that they're committed to. It's a subscription. It's something they're paying every single month. They're not seeing any additional benefit. And it's unplanned. Like, they did not have a heads up for this increase for any amount of lead time where they could have taken action, truly. And a lot of folks, and I'm sure you've seen this in the research that you did preparing for this conversation, a lot of people turn off and on their subscriptions based on what's coming and what they want to engage with. Like if there's a season of TV that is coming to Netflix, they'll turn on their Netflix or they'll resubscribe. And then if there's something that's not really interesting to them for a long time, they'll maybe like deactivate their subscription for a while. But it's hard to do that with games because there's always something new coming. There's this library that you want to keep access to. So if you turn it off, let's say you're a console subscriber or Xbox for a console subscriber, and they turn it off and then turn it back on, they don't have that same library they had access to before. So there's a lot of disadvantage to the customer in this case. It's sad to see. I know that it's not something that Xbox wants to like do to piss people off. Obviously, they don't want their subscribers to Game Pass to be unhappy with the product. My guess is that they had to get around some kind of contracting, and that's why it's so convoluted. But something that I think Xbox had as an advantage before was that it was so easy to understand, Game Pass, and it's gotten more and more difficult to comprehend for the average consumer. And truthfully, it's a loss for people who are fans and people who want to pay a decent price and get access to the stuff that they had before. And that's why people are probably the most disappointed. My guess.
The most frustrating change for me is that the base tier still is sold in my mind on multiplayer access. Mm-hmm. Premium games that have multiplayer, so games that aren't free to play. Free to play games will continue to allow you to access multiplayer without any kind of Game Pass subscription. But games like Call of Duty, for example, the crown jewel in their new Activision Blizzard crown, is going to be mandated that you get at least the minimum tier, the standard tier, if you're not a current subscriber, in order to be able to play online with your friends. And that has always been one of the baked-in costs of playing video games. It's been something that I don't like. I don't like that I pay a lot for these games and that the platform then charges me an ongoing monthly fee to play online. But I understand why it exists, right? I get that technology isn't free or cheap for that matter, and that the platforms have to constantly upgrade and keep pace with changing hardware and changing telecoms infrastructure, blah, blah, blah. So I get that. But it is quite, as you mentioned, quite a big price jump to go from $10 a month to $15 a month in a time where everything seems like it's more expensive than it ever has been. And it's like, but like, why that price? And I think that they're probably just looking at market competition and going, well, this is what our competition is charging. Now, when it comes to the overall value of the other tiers, I think there's still an incredible amount of value in Game Pass versus buying individual games. But that's always going to be up to the individual gamer, right? The idea of value is something that we've talked about on this show of it's going to be different for every person. What I think is worth $10 may not be what somebody in Alabama or North Dakota or New York or Miami and Florida thinks is worth $10, right? $10 is different to everybody. And so you as a gamer are going to have to decide, is this worth my money? And I think we as consumers of entertainment are just being forced now to make choices where previously, like before 2023, we could kind of have a lot of these subscriptions and try out a lot of different ones because it was manageable, and now it's just not. And having to make that choice is definitely the bummer part of this, but I don't think the individual prices for the offerings are unfair, if that makes sense.
No, I don't think they're unfair. And to your point, if Xbox is looking at market value, this is about par for the course, right? So I don't think anybody is seeing this as a ripoff. It's just frustrating. And the way it was rolled out, not very friendly to the average consumer who's just trying to get by, right? And doesn't dig into all of this stuff. They're not looking at Windows Central, and they're not looking up guides on how to navigate the Game Pass subscription model. They just want to have a good time and access to the stuff that they've always been able to access. And when the price jumps that much, it's a bit shocking. And like all of the things that you just mentioned as well, it rubs you the wrong way. And something that I think is really interesting, if we're kind of reading down the line for what's happening to PC Game Pass, like not on the console side, their price increase is only $2. So why? That's my question. Is like, did we get a justification for that? And maybe I missed it, but PC Game Pass still has day one. And it still has the same library, and you get access to EA Play and the Riot Games apps. But that increase is more in line with what I think people are used to for, a periodical increase to subscriptions based on inflation or whatever it is they're looking at for their cost models. So it putting the two messages together also kind of feels off, right?
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
I'm with you there that for console players, it feels a little bit more punitive. And I would love to hear from Xbox on, why they came up with this particular price model, but I doubt we're ever going to get a detailed explanation as to why they chose the prices that they did. I do appreciate that they still are allowing people to stack multi-month discount cards for the time being, at least, so you can still find cheeky ways to save on your ongoing subscription. But it's just going to get expensive to be a gamer who wants to have access to this. So I think it's, what's going to force consumers to do is say, what are the games that I think it's worth paying for? And it's interesting that from your perspective, you think that there's, or at least the people in your circle are turning off and turning on their subscriptions.
Absolutely.
Me and some of my friends in different circles, forget about it. It's in the background. It just goes, it just dings my account every month. And, that's a bad problem. That's definitely for a bigger conversation on a different show, but the ongoing subscription problem and the erosion of ownership, particularly in the United States, and debt, using that as a way to fund everything else as we subscribe our ways into black holes of fiduciary responsibility. That's, we're not going to go down that hole. But that said, I mean, we have to look at Xbox's overall lineup, and it's been frustrating, I think, also for players that have been paying for Game Pass. If you are paying for Game Pass for these day and date titles, these big AAAs, there really hasn't been a lot of them that you can point to say this has been worth it on the ultimate level. And so I think they may see when the price change goes into effect, people dropping their tier down to be like, well, until the next big AAA game comes out, why am I paying for Ultimate when I just want to play some of these cool smaller titles, or I want to play back catalog stuff?
Yeah, 100%. And I love that in some form or fashion, Game Pass funds indie games, right? We see a lot of discoverability that's truly optimized on the Xbox platform. And I do want to applaud the team for that. I found a lot of really fun games just browsing through the store, and it's easy to navigate, and it pulls up things that I would be interested in all the time. So I do like the model. I do like what it does for smaller creators and smaller game makers, but it is just frustrating that, that $75 game only comes around a couple times a year to really justify this ultimate cost. So for PC people, I'm sure you're sitting pretty. It's fine. You're still getting a really great deal, and there hasn't been much change. But for anybody on console, it's a little bit of a tougher pill to swallow.
Well, I'm sure all the PC stands will come to the comments to say, well, Riana, do you know how expensive my PC is for video games? You know how often I need to upgrade my graphics card? And I'd be like, yes, it's expensive. It's
that is a problem you created. Your problem.
Sounds like a you problem.
PC problem.
But I mean, if I was doing the napkin math, still think it's a cheaper way to game on console, even with a more expensive subscription, than it is to invest in even low end gaming PC. But obviously,
Absolutely.
there's a lot of ways you can use a PC for things other than just video games, right,
Or
everybody?
you could just get the Fire Stick and just play on your.
I mean,
just
that's
play on
a
your
big
TV.
part of the conversation too, is cloud, right? So cloud is being taken out of the standard tier and is only going to be available for the upper tiers. And I'm not surprised about that because that is a wildly expensive thing for Microsoft to run day in and day out. And cloud, I think, still hasn't really been realized in the Microsoft ecosystem when it comes to video games. There are definitely people who are using it, and there are people who are really loving it. But I think in terms of messaging, communication, and adoption across the millions of subscribers, I would guess that the vast majority of subscribers never use cloud services at all.
Yeah, that's fair. I would say it's for super users, 100% right now, and early adopters. But there's a bet that they're making, they're thinking it's going to trickle down and eventually become the norm. So we'll see.
Well, we hope so. And in the meantime, they're just selling all of their cloud farms to other industries because why not? Make that money, Microsoft. You do it.
Yeah.
But it has been really fascinating looking at the reaction and how some people have gotten so upset about this. And I get it. Like, I was mad when Spotify yet again increased their subscription. I was mad when YouTube Premium yet again increased the subscription price. It feels like we can't go more than 12 months, maybe even less than that, without getting some kind of a price hike. Do you think that it's going to stay stable for a while, or do you think that this is just now the new norm, that we should expect these hikes every 12 months?
For Xbox or for just subscription services in general?
I think in general.
Yeah, I think this is the new normal. Inflation isn't enough for a lot of these companies, and they continue to double down on the fact that, the people who stay will make up for the people who leave. And we haven't seen any tapering off at all since this trend started with any of these subscription model companies. And I do not see an end in sight. There's no incentive for them to stop, until people en masse quit subscribing or don't let it just hide in the back of your account every month. And, like what will be the impetus for them to change the pattern? I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. For the consumer, unfortunately.
No, you're absolutely right. I think the tough conversation that not many people are having is this dichotomy between the incredible outrage and uproar people had when Microsoft had huge layoffs and studio closures earlier this year, a rejiggering of their outlook for their gaming business specifically, and them saying, hey, our gaming business is not as profitable as it needs to be in order for us to justify this incredible amount of money we're spending on it. So we're going to have to bring money in somehow. And this is one way to do it. And then people saying, oh, well, no, I don't want to pay. Why do I have to pay? You should pay. And then it kind of gets into this weird tug of war of, where is the consumer of art responsibility, right? Because this subscription service is not essential services, right? We're not talking about like your electricity or water access or a roof over your head, right? This is video games. It's entertainment. It's escapism entertainment. And so who bears the burden of making sure that the art gets funded and the people who make the art have a job, right? Obviously, Microsoft is a business, and they saw that their gaming business wasn't running as efficiently as it needed to be. And so they scaled it back, and people lost their jobs and studios got shut down, and we all were collectively upset about it. But now it's like they're saying, well, we need to make some of that money back, or what? More closures are going to happen? More people are going to lose their jobs? More studios get shut down? Is that the answer? I don't know.
Yeah, these are really good questions, and I don't think anyone can or would be legally obligated to answer them. But the other thing that I'm seeing people throw out online is comparing this to PlayStation Plus, and I don't look at it, so I don't know what the nuts and bolts are.
Well, PlayStation is quite a bit more expensive in all of their tier offerings than Xbox, and so maybe Xbox is seeing, hey, like, well, Sony's charging this much. Why shouldn't we get to charge more?
Which is very rational and understandable, right? That's the thing that people are going to compare it to. It's the other subscription that people have on their monthly tally that they're going to figure out if they need to keep or throw out. And, it's fair to say, like, well, aren't you complaining about this when you're outraged about that? And to that I say, because people like the good deal and they want it to remain the good deal. Like,
Amen.
they don't want the good deal to become the same as the crappy deal or the more expensive deal.
Make it cheap,
right?
please.
It's like we want our special little cheapo thing to stay
Bring back
cheapo.
the dollar Xbox Game Pass.
Right? I want my dollar menu to stay the dollar menu, not the $1.25 menu,
Oh.
So I mean, that sentiment is very understandable as well. And nothing's apples to oranges, but it is frustrating to see such confusion in these tiers. And I understand some of it's probably having to do with contracting for what can go in day one, what can't, and like if there's some kind of pushback for that, and all of it gets very complicated on the back end. But for the consumer, for the mom who's in Target and trying to buy a little card for their kid for their 10th birthday or whatever, make it easier. Like, just make it easier on them.
Yeah. Streamlining it would be helpful. And I think once they go through this transition period and there's only the 3 tiers, that will absolutely make it easier. And I'm sure Xbox is just hoping that everyone just buys Ultimate and calls it a day. But
well, I will. That's definitely what I'm going to do.
But we also play and talk about video games as part of what we do for a living. And I don't know, $20 per month is that's a lot.
It's up there. It doesn't sound like a lot of money when you're like, oh, I spend $20 here and there all the time. But when it's consistently every single month and there's no end in sight, like there's little flexibility to say, well, oh, maybe I could try to budget better and save for bills or family trip or unexpected expenses when you have this kind of stuck in your tally.
Absolutely.
It's frustrating.
Well, everybody, that is going to do it for our feature news for the week. When we come back, we're going to talk about some games that we are playing, and we have that special EVO interview coming up a little bit later on in the show. But I want to say, if you like What's Good Games and you enjoy listening to our show, please tell a friend and maybe hit that subscribe button. Every little bit helps everybody, and we appreciate your support. But right now, let's take a listen to a couple ads. This episode of What's Good Games is brought to you by Shopify. What works so well that it's basically magical? How about glorious air conditioning on these hot days? Getting food delivered to your house? What about that drop-in, drop-out multiplayer? What about selling with Shopify? Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business, from the launch your online store stage to the first real-life shop stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage? Shopify is there to help you grow. Whether you're selling die-cut anime stickers or maybe you're selling fishing gear, Shopify helps you sell everywhere, from their all-in-one commerce platform to their in-person POS system. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to the leading commerce platforms. And sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S., and Shopify's the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow, grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/what's-good. All lowercase, remember. Go to shopify.com/what's-good now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/what's-good. Riana, I was pleased to hear when we started recording this week, you said, I've been playing a video game. That always just makes me happy for parents with infants, because everybody out there who's listening that has had an infant or is currently watching an infant knows just how difficult that is. So good for you, Mama. Let's talk about this game that you've been playing.
Yeah, so this game is called The Alters, and I first came across this game, I want to say on one of the streams, or sorry, one of the showcases that we see throughout the year. I want to say it was either late last year or summer last year, 2023. But this game comes from 11-Bit Studios, who were the creators of This War Is Mine, if you remember that game. And
I
then
do.
they also did, what is the other one here? Frostpunk, the Frostpunk series. So Frostpunk 1 and 2. And those games, if you're familiar with them, especially Frostpunk, are all about making choices that impact this world that you're playing in. So that DNA has crossed over into this new game called The Altars. And the premise is that you're playing Jan, this Jan Dolsky, who is a miner who has gone through many different things in his life that have led him to the point of taking on this experimental space mission where they're going to an uncharted planet to find a substance called rapidium. And the reason they're looking for this rapidium is that it does all kinds of things, like it speeds up the growth of organisms so they could potentially grow whole crops in just hours instead of months or years, or they could, grow potentially artificial limbs or organs for people who need transplants or things like that. But then if you kind of extrapolate that and follow that logic all the way to the end, you can grow people. So essentially, this is a substance that allows you to clone people. And Jan is on the spaceship. They crash land on this planet, and none of the crew survived except for him. So he's trying to repower up this derelict ship. He's trying to chart his immediate surroundings in order to find resources to, fix broken parts and make sure he still has enough food to eat, and then eventually get this ship up and running so he can outrun the sun that is rising, because it's so hot on this planet it'll kill him. And that's sort of your immediate game loop, right? You're going out to this area that you're docked in. You're looking for resources, you're extracting things, you're scanning for things, you're building little fast travel points, and then going back to your ship in order to fix whatever you need to fix, make whatever you need to make, and then keep your base moving. But at the beginning, you realize, I can't run this ship. I can't even get it up and running to start by myself. So you contact home base, and then they tell you, hey, that substance that you found, go ahead and use it in this computer that we put on the ship. And you're like, I don't know what this computer is. I don't even have access to it. I'm just a lowly miner. And once you open it up and they give you access, you find, oh, this is charting all of my memories for my entire life. And the way that you create these alters, these clones, in order to help you get additional hands to power your ship is you change something that happened in your memory, and it creates an entirely different personality that would have been you. And that's sort of like the base of the game. I've only played the first 2 hours, so there's obviously much more to unravel here, but it's a really interesting combination of sort of like your choices matter type of gameplay. There's the base building, there's the survival crafting, there's a very satisfying Tetris-like effect that you use in order to build out your mobile station. And then there's obviously these really intense conversations and dialogue trees with your other selves. And behind all of it is the mystery of, like, how did this company even find you? Why you? What were they actually trying to do? Like, was the farming really what they were going for? And like who's funding this organization? So there's lots of sort of space mystery and intrigue behind all of the cool interactive elements and all of the different community building things you're doing, like trying to keep all of yourselves happy. But I thought it was just really interesting to jump into, and I'm really glad there was a demo because it looked really trippy from the trailers and all of the footage that we've seen so far. But actually playing it, it feels very comforting. Like it's a familiar type of gameplay, and a lot of things from different genres that I really like put together in a very interesting package. And it's now, after playing the first 2 hours, the top of my anticipated list for 2024. So I'm very excited about this one.
Okay. Unexpected. I remember
Yeah.
when this game was announced, and the thing I took away from it was all of the yawns, right? Like this guy cloning himself over and over and over again. And the art aesthetic at face value and some of the stuff that we were watching in this gameplay trailer gives me a lot of Death Stranding vibes.
Yeah.
With
fair.
the big suit and running around in these vast, empty environments where you're basically just alone. Obviously, very different games, right? But overall, like, it's an interesting sci-fi concept. This idea that, you have to outrun the sun. It's funny because I'm reading this book from Brandon Sanderson, one of my favorite fantasy authors, called The Sunlit Man. And the underlying premise of that book is this character is on a planet where every rotation, like the people on the planet have to like stay ahead of the sun, because if you get hit by the sunlight, it like burns you instantly.
Right.
It's like you're like poof into ash, like upon contact with sunlight. And I'm like, oh man, that sounds stressful. And then on top of that, you're alone and you have to clone yourself and then make sure all of the other versions of yourself are happy. Man, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, telltale, like so-and-so will remember that type of vibe. But the way they do it is really interesting because it looks, I'm thinking of, is it Life is Strange True Colors? There's like sort of little bubbles that will pop up around the character as you're making your dialogue decisions between your yawn and other yawns that you awaken. And let's say there's a yawn who is really rebellious and doesn't like what's going on, and you say something that he doesn't agree with, it'll say rebellion, and the red cloud around the word will get bigger. And so you can like almost like feel their emotions expanding or subsiding or changing and shifting. And it's a very like synesthetic experience where I feel like it's a lot more impactful than a dialogue prompt. And I like the way that they did that. And when you go and look at the other yawn profiles, you can see these clouds and sort of like a 3D personality map and like how they're feeling, like what they're thinking, what they're likely to do. Like, do they have anything against you? Are they going to try to sabotage something that goes along? Does this one hate this other one? If you decide to like upgrade how the food is cooked, will this one be mad because you wasted resources? Is it worth impressing this other one that wants better food quality? Like those are the things that are really interesting to sort of manage and balance along with the core gameplay loop.
How that's all going to affect the overarching narrative obviously remains to be seen because the game is not technically out yet. Right?
Right. So it says 2024. And what was interesting is at the end of the demo, you receive and I played this on Steam, but you receive a prompt to go to a Google form, and they have a questionnaire of like what things you liked about the game, what would you like to see more of, what things could be improved on. So it does seem like there's still some room for tweaking about at least which aspects of all of this different gameplay elements they focus on. But they said 2024, so I don't see much tweaking that they could do. Like, they're not going to write a whole nother like line of narrative, but I found it very intriguing that they were even taking that kind of feedback at this point because, there's a lot here. There are a lot of systems in play, and do you want to unravel the story, or do you really just love going and collecting resources? Like those are core questions that they don't feel like they've answered yet. So if you're interested in giving your input, go ahead and try it out on Steam and give them your questionnaire feedback. Just a quick note, I played this on Steam Deck. Not great. It was very hot and it crashed many times.
Yeah,
so,
I imagine most demos are not made for
not
Steam
optimized.
Deck. Yeah.
Not at all. I gave it a shot anyway, and once I played with Nice Pack on it, it was fine. But it was definitely not happy on my machine.
The things we do to be mobile while we're gaming. Yeah. Just want to be on my couch, like horizontal, please. I don't want to sit at my desk to have a gaming
imperative
experience.
at this point.
So much to ask. Well, this is really fascinating. I hadn't thought about going to check out this demo, but it looks like it's exploring some really unique ideas, and I think I'm definitely going to wait until the final version comes out. But, I think that this game is doing some really interesting things and kind of taking some concepts and kind of mashing them together in a very fascinating way.
Yeah. There's a little sci-fi for you there.
Yes, well, I'm doing two of those things very separately. I'm playing one sci-fi game, and then I'm laying horizontal with my mobile device game, and both are scratching very different itches. And these are two games that I've already been talking about on the show, so I'm not going to spend too long chatting about them. But I've been making my way through the campaign in the final shape, Destiny 2. Shout out to Maria and Joy for helping me, because I've been doing a lot of it solo because I basically just turn it on when I have time. And I've been going through another sleep regression with my 3-year-old. So this has been fun. But been playing and just really loving everything that's been shown and all the cutscenes and the story, and there's so much more for me to dig into and so much more for me to do. But just really having a great time and really enjoying exploring the new prismatic subclass and, making my guardian look fly like I do, and just reminding myself why I love Destiny so much and just wish I had more time to play that fantastic game. So if you are part of the What's Good Guardians or you're just a Destiny fan and you haven't jumped into the final shape or you haven't played in a long time, I really just want to encourage you to think about making time because it's really good. And I've been having a lot of fun. And I know that they've had some missteps with some of their big expansions over the last couple of years in particular, but it really feels like they're hitting on some really great ideas with this. And it's just a lot of culmination of storylines coming together for longtime fans and new fans alike. So I think that, it's worth your time, everybody. But having a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll get into it at some point. It's just time.
Yes. Oh, and don't let anybody convince you that you have to do it on Legendary, because you can play the campaign on normal like I am. And then once you're ready and you've got the gear and you've figured out what the heck your prismatic subclass is all about, because let me be honest, it's figuring it all out can be a little bit confusing if you're not really well versed in the new fragment system that they've implemented in the last couple of expansions and how exactly you socket your abilities into your subclass. Like that can take a little bit of time. But then once you're like in a groove, then, find some friends and go back and do it all in Legendary and get those rewards too. I mean, you know us, we love baby mode.
Oh,
but
yes.
The other game that I've been spending far too much time with, Rihanna, and I'm like both excited because I enjoy my time, but also mad because I'm spending so much money, is this mobile game I talked about on the show a couple weeks back called Garden Joy. So I have now played, I believe, over 45 days. I'm approaching like the 60-day mark of playing this mobile game almost every day, because they have a login bonus where you get like a bump of diamonds when you log in. So I don't necessarily compete in the challenges every day, but at least like open it and like collect my free diamonds, and then maybe I'll like collect a couple things or vote, and then I'll shut it. Because I get mad at myself if I don't get my free
You gotta get your
whatever.
freebies.
But this game has really like gotten into me in a way that I'm so conflicted about. And the thing I mentioned the last time when I talked about this game, and the reason why I was so conflicted, is that this game is exactly the kind of game that I love. It's chill. It's about decorating. It's gardening. It has a really deep inventory of both plants and trees, shrubs, flowers, with a lot of actual educational information about what these plants are, where they live, their USDA hardiness zones, like the things that gardeners like need to know about when you're planting and where plants can thrive and survive. And they also have an incredible inventory of really cool design elements, from dining chairs to loungers, coffee tables, different types of tile, different kinds of specialty potted plants, water fountains, all kinds of fun, unique interior design, exterior design elements, outdoor hardscaping, landscaping elements that I'm at this stage of my life very excited about because that's just where I'm at. And I love that all of those things are coming together. What I don't love is the gamification of it, in that there's no way for me to make a financial investment and then to feel like I have a library to show for all of what I've invested. Like I think about Destiny, the other game I'm playing. I've sunk hundreds and hundreds of dollars into silver, probably $1,000 at this point over the 10 years I've been playing Destiny, right? But when I look in my vault, or if I pull up my emote wheel, I can see all of my silver right there, right? I can see every piece that I bought over time. I can see all of the, the custom shaders or ornaments that I bought. I can see everything that I spent money on. And I like that. I like going, okay, I bought that, $50 pack of silver, and it hurt when I did it, but then I got to use that emote that I'd been eyeing in the store for literally months, waiting for the season to end, hoping that I would get the engram drop, and I never did, but dang it, I'm going to buy it now before it goes out of the shop. And then I get to have it and have that reward. And this game doesn't let me do that. And it's so frustrating because I am willing to buy the big like $100 diamond pack if I got to keep some of the stuff that I'm buying in the game. But you don't. You just unlock it and you get to use it 5 fucking times. That's it. And then it's poof, it's gone. And I'm like, why? Why is that the way that you decided to make this game? And I know it's because they want to keep people on like a drip feed. And it's so frustrating. This is exactly why gamers hate microtransactions and they hate companies that do this. It just feels so predatory and unfair. And it's upsetting to me because there's such a good game in this that's just being absolutely overshadowed in my mind by predatory gated microtransactions. And it's just, it makes me sad. Am I stopping playing? Not yet. But there will come a day when I'm just like, I finally hit my wall of going, I'm tired of having to dump money into this game every week or two to be able to stay competitive and to compete in the challenges and the seasonal events and all of that. And it's a bummer. Like I don't feel like I should have to spend $15 to $20 a month on one game and then have nothing to show for it. Like that's a lot, if not more. I think I've spent close to $45 so far in this game. And now I've just run out of my diamonds again.
Damn. Well, let me ask you this. Would there be a model that, satisfied the greed of microtransactions, but also gave you what you're looking for? Like if it was you buy the consumables 5 times and then you can unlock, for $5 extra, you can have 1 per month forever. Like, is there a way to combo price this out that would work for you?
Well, I think they would have to offer a subscription model. Dare I say it after we just...
Oh boy, full circle. We're back, folks. We're back.
Oh God, no, I'm part of the problem, everybody. But we're talking about a digital product. There's no real ownership, right? Like think about Fortnite and their season passes, right? You can be part of the Fortnite club, right? Their ongoing subscription model, and you get specialty unlocks and you get exclusive perks and you get all of these things that are in your inventory, right? The stuff you get by being part of that club and paying that subscription price, those emotes, those characters, the skins for your stuff is all there like in your locker when you want to go use it. It's not like it disappears when that month is over and the next month begins. And I think that that's a really great model. And it's part of the reason why Fortnite has been so incredibly successful is that they provide excellent value and they know that players want to keep coming back and players are incentivized to pay for the ongoing subscription instead of just buying the season pass whenever they're playing, because they can then go to their inventory of stuff and go, wow, look at this cool deep inventory of stuff that my subscription bought me, even if I don't play with it all. Right. And a lot of these mobile games that are targeted at the non-gamers, people that don't identify as gamers or people that don't historically play console or PC games and maybe only play on mobile, particularly older gamers and particularly women, which feels even more predatory, is that, they know that those gamers aren't seeking that kind of value in the same way. And a lot of these companies prioritize whales or high spend players than the mass community of players. And that's a bummer, especially when the game I'm playing, Garden Joy, has a voting element tied to the main gameplay loop where you have to vote on, is this design or this design going to get the stars? And then each design that you get that's 4 stars out of 5 or better nets you a reward, and then that reward goes into your inventory. You can then use that, whether it be like a chair or a plant or whatever. And I think that if you want to incentivize more people to keep playing so that you get a more robust community of people who are participating, you just have to make it more approachable and make it feel like there's actually a value in spending money. It's like there's some really cool seasonal packs that they do. Like they did this one like ice cream beach decor pack that was all like pink tiles and like white and tan outdoor cushions and like a neon ice cream sign and like stuff that I'm like, oh, that looks like a super fun thing to decorate with. And it's like I would spend the extra like $4.99 buying that pack if I got to keep that pack. But I spend $4.99 on it, and then I get to use it again 5 times per item, and then they're gone forever.
Forever. And you can't ever go back to it. Like, that's the frustrating part there. I get it. I mean, none of this has any real value, but like to be able to, like you said, look at this library of things, like this is what all my silver got me. At least, I know I did it. Like, I have my trophy room. That feels good to people. And to your point about whales and making sure that the community has enough people for those whales to play with, like, I just Googled, like, what do whales eat? Because it's not other whales. Like, you need the krill, you need the fish, you need the plankton, you need all the other small mammals and everything to keep it going. Otherwise, it's just 4 whales playing with each other, and that's boring, right?
Yeah. Well, and the really tough part is that usually in these games, when you're playing free, there's a way to be successful if you really put the time and the grind in. But that's not the case. You're
paying with money or time. Yeah.
Right. But that's not the case here because you can't pay with time because there's a set amount of items that you can use. And if you don't use all of the extra decor items, which cost diamonds, which cost real dollars, and you get a certain amount of, like, again, free diamonds, but the amount of free diamonds that you get each day will buy you maybe 1 item. But most of the time not, because it's not enough diamonds to get you even 1 item per day. And then if you don't have enough of those items, your XP is lower, so you get rewards slower. And then on top of that, your designs aren't as appealing when you're stacked up against somebody who's spending money. So it really is a pay-to-win environment in a way that just is like, this just feels so gross, but I can't stop playing. I don't know what's wrong with me. I see what's wrong with this game, but I really like it. And so I know that I'm going to hit the wall eventually, and then I'm going to stop playing because I'm just too frustrated by it.
Yeah.
But I'm not there yet. I think once I get to probably like the 90-day mark, I'll be like, okay, I can't put any more money into this game. Like, I just can't. And that's a bummer because I would like to keep playing. But just got to find a different one, I guess.
Yeah, there's plenty of them. I've played a couple myself, but I didn't get to 90 days. I definitely didn't even get to 45. That's a lot.
Yeah, well, I wanted to do some of it for science, right? Like, because
sure.
I wanted to make sure I wasn't just snap judging it and that maybe it got better. But spoilers, it doesn't get better. It gets worse. Gets worse, everybody.
Oh,
well. But I mean, they have really cool art in the game, and I love that they're partnered with the spruce, and so you can find a plant. Like, one of the plants that I put into my front yard here is a California native annual called the California poppy. It's the beautiful orange poppy a lot of people associate with the state of California. And you can click on its description and read all about it. And it's like, do you want to learn more about growing poppies? And it will take you to the external website where you can learn more about, the zone where you can plant poppies, how to plant them, how to propagate them from seed, and all the things that gardeners are really interested in learning about. That element of the game is so cool. And it feels like it's just overshadowed by the give us money constantly casino grind. And that's
shout out to the devs that put that much time and care into it, because it sounds like they did really great work, and it's probably nothing to do with them that it is so punishing to the people who like it.
Yes, I just, don't give me a subscription, but maybe, I don't know.
Oh boy.
All right, listen, that's enough about Garden Joy. I am excited for you to hear my fantastic interview with the Hadou, Rick Thiher from EVO 2024. Let's get into it, everybody. We'll be back after this quick ad break. This episode of What's Good Games is brought to you by Boot.dev. If you're listening to this podcast, there's a good chance that you like to play video games, but have you thought about making one? Now, whether you're thinking of it as a side hustle or maybe it's going to be your new career path, if you're interested in learning to code, then it's time to check out Boot.dev. You'll learn back-end web development from start to finish in Python and Go programming languages. The folks at Boot.dev believe the smartest way to learn code is to make sure you're never bored. Boot.dev is online, self-paced, and feels like a captivating RPG game. The platform is designed to get you writing a ton of code because getting your hands on the keyboard and shipping projects is really the only way to learn. At Boot.dev, they believe that learning to code is not a get-rich-quick scheme. They believe in going deep and taking time on the fundamentals so that you are as prepared as you can be when your job search begins. They never want a student feeling like they spent money on something that isn't helping them either. So they offer a 30-day, no questions asked refund policy and a free demo with every course and its interactive features. Click the link in the description box below and use our code WGG to get 25% off your first payment for boot.dev. That's BOOT.dev and use our code WGG. It's almost like it rhymes, right? And get 25% off your first month or your first year, depending on which subscription you choose. Start your coding journey today at boot.dev with our code WGG. This episode of What's Good Games is brought to you by Golden Nugget Online. Is your laundry on its spin cycle? Well, then give Golden Nugget Online Casino a spin. With over hundreds of the most exciting games, Golden Nugget lets you live it up in your downtime. Discover good fortune on games like Fortune Coin, available anywhere Golden Nugget Online Casino is. So instead of letting boredom hit, may your slots hit instead. Right now, new players can get $50 instantly in casino credits with just a $5 deposit. And all players can play for a share of over $1 million in weekly rewards. Sign up with code What's Good Games and make any moment golden. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. Please play responsibly. 21 plus, physically present in Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia only. Void in Ontario. One new per customer, minimum $5 deposit. Max $50 issued in non-withdrawable casino credits that expire in 168 hours. See goldennuggetcasino.com/welcome for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. What's good, everybody? Andrea and Riana here with a special interview. In just a week, Evolution Championship Series 2024 is happening. That's right. EVO, the pinnacle of fighting game esports tournaments, is happening here in Las Vegas in the United States. So I had to sit down with the guy who runs the whole thing. Please welcome to the show, GM of EVO. It's Rick the Hadou Thiher. Rick, you're just a little bit of a busy guy right now.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Fitting in some time because I fly out in 5 days. This is coming up quick.
Oh, so you have got the pre-show excitement jitters, or are you just sweating bullets because you're like, oh my gosh, it's not done yet?
I think we're in the pre-show fire drills that lead into the jitters so that when we're done, you get that nice washing sense of relief.
Absolutely. Oh, that's such a great feeling. But going into such an exciting show is a fun time, not just for you and your staff, of course, but for fans of the fighting game community. So before we dive into exactly what's new at EVO 2024 this year and what you guys are doing, I'd love to give people just a quick primer on what is EVO. Esports has clearly taken on quite a different amount of faces over the past decade, but the fighting game community has been one of the oldest and most passionate communities around. What is your history with EVO?
So my history as EVO started as an attendee back in 2011, competed in a bunch of the shows, worked a bunch of the shows. I've been in the brackets team. I've been a referee. I've done broadcast graphics. I've worked merchandising. I've done kind of everything around the show that there was to do. And then 2 years ago, got the privilege of becoming the general manager after the acquisition from Sony and RTS.
Did you ever think of yourself as being the guy who's running all of EVO, knowing that you started loving video games like most of us who are watching the show, and then being like, wow, how did I get here?
I can very honestly say that this was not a position I ever expected to be in, but doing my best to enjoy it and kind of take care of the responsibility of it as best possible.
I've had the pleasure of attending several EVOs over the years, and I always tell people who have never gone, you can't quite explain the electricity that's in the room when you're at EVO, particularly at the finals, right? That's one of the most exciting live events to be part of in video games. What is so wonderful about being a part of EVO as somebody who loves fighting games?
I think the part that's wonderful for me is I now get to engage with the community and the culture in every aspect. So we can do the tournament sides of it. We can do the artist alley sides of it. We can do the commerce and the experiential and all the things that go into every flavor of fighting game fandom. The main wonder, though, is the same thing that it's always been. Standing in a room with tens of thousands of eliminated competitors who know every facet of the game they're watching, know everything about the player base that they're engaging with, and getting to just experience high-level fighting gameplay, that to me is still the best part. That hasn't changed from day one attending the show through hopefully next Sunday.
I don't think that that's going to change between now and then. So no worries there at all. I love that you touched on some of the different parts of what Evo is, because some people may think of it as just this esports tournament, but it's so much more than that. You mentioned the Artist Alley, and then of course there's the BYOC, and you guys have other things going on there as well, like the vendor village, the arcade, and you guys are doing an art museum this year too?
Yes. So we've got a collaborative project with all of the publishers who are on site at the show with the game lineup that we have featured. We'll have over 100 pieces of art collected from the history of those franchises on display, like a museum, hung up on the wall. Just trying to make sure that any and every place that your fandom might root for fighting games, you can experience at Evo.
That's such a cool idea to bring that side of the video game making process into a fandom event like Evo. I think in a world where everything is more expensive and people are kind of sweating where each dollar goes, the idea that you get such a value for attending an event like Evo is really appealing to a lot of fans. Was it always part of your plan once you stepped into your role as GM to make Evo more of a trade show instead of just a tournament?
I don't know that it's a goal as so much as when I came into the role, Evo had started to make a transition from just being a tournament to being a convention to trying to cohabitate those two experiences in one place. And pushing on that to try to turn it into a festival has become the goal. It's not that I want it to change from what it was or what it's trying to be. I want it to take all those, quite frankly, gestating ideas and turn them into something that's very real and very available to experience each year at the biggest, best level that we can manage to put together.
That's a very official answer, I think. I feel like you're like reading the talking points on that one, Rick. I'm gonna call you out on that. I mean, I would just love to hear like your candid thoughts on like how it's changed and grown. Cause I mean, you have to step back and look at all of the work that you and your team have put in and go, wow, what a cool thing to be a part of, knowing how passionate the fighting game community is. I think that's something that people who aren't into fighting games or haven't been to an FGC event or been part of like a local tournament maybe don't quite understand, that we as gamers, all of us, like share this common love of the medium, but there's just a little like je ne sais quoi, like a zeitgeist about the fighting game community that's a little bit difficult to kind of put a finger on. And organizing around that, I'm sure, has its challenges. One, it's like, oh, I love doing this and I want to hang out with my friends and just talk about my favorite characters in the latest game that came out. But it's also like, oh man, I'm actually like working and I have to like make sure all of the food vendors are making their deliveries and all of the things that comes along with actually running a show. And, it's got to be this weird dynamic for you. Have you lost any of the kind of luster and the magic of being part of the FGC, or is it still just as strong as it always was?
I don't think I've lost any luster in part because I get to touch more of it. So, I mean, you learn fighting games just like learning any other game. You learn a language. You learn how to play the games. You learn the lore. You wind up with favorite characters. Maybe you've read books and comics. Maybe you've got statues and paints and just all the things that go into being a fan.
Yeah.
And any given day, a different aspect of that being a fan is probably your favorite part of the game. I have the benefit of my favorite part of the game on any given day. I can try to put a spotlight on or try to add to the show or try to plus up or try to make something new, so long as it's in balance with all the things that the show already is or is important to the show. So I haven't lost that luster. What I have lost is the ability to appreciate all those things in the moment. When you're working the show, I would love to just stand around and appreciate the museum. That's not going to happen because even if it's all going well, I'm probably going to stand there and go, that print was hung an inch too low and it could have been perfect. And it's not
Oh no,
perfect
that's
now.
me. I'm that person too.
And now no one can enjoy the museum because that print is hung an inch too low. Like, that's my experience at the show now. And attending that didn't used to be the case. Attending the show, it was, have I won or lost yet? Did I remember to drink water? Why do my feet hurt so much? Oh yeah, I've walked back and forth 7 times. That change has been one of the, I think, challenges of taking a role like this, because I still want to enjoy everything on a fandom level. I still want to engage with everything on a fandom level. I want to stand in the corner and talk to my friends about a bunch of subjects that it's professionally irresponsible to even probably engage with at this point. Losing those things is a challenge because it pulls you back from some of the things that bring you to this moment or got me to this job. The counterbalance to that, though, is I now get to go and engage with things that were never possible before. I can work with someone like Zed Tabani, who made one song for Evo back in 2011 that became the official theme for the show. And then when I got into this job, and it's well over a decade later, he gets to come back and now he helps lead the official soundtrack that we do every year. And so being able to reach back into the community to, again, find those places of fandom where people are exceptionally passionate and help give them an outlet at a show that is in turn just trying to create and renew fandom. Fighting games it's a generational fandom at this point. You're 35 plus years deep on some of the franchises. You can go into the player pit and find 60-year-old men playing against 20-year-old kids. 20 is probably not a kid technically, but it
Yeah,
feels
they're
that
still
way
kids.
when you're
They're still
pushing
young.
40. Being able to actually reach across all of that at once in one location, I think that's the coolest part of Evo to me. And that's the thing that I really want to work on. That's why the tournament's important. That's why the convention side activities is important. It's why the festival stage treatment or building out an arena inside a convention center so you can actually go in, watch a match, and then go check out the arcade, because that's the piece that's pulling on your interests at the moment.
Yes, you guys are in a new location this year, and I'm sure that has its own set of challenges working inside a convention center. Were you able to execute an idea that you've had for a while that your previous locations were maybe a little bit limiting on? Like, is there something super cool that you're like pumped about that the new location has allowed you to do?
Yeah. So this harkens back to those early Evo experiences, even for the first times that I went. Evo used to be small enough that everything was in one room. And then it grew into the gigantic presentation show it became, where it's here's finals and Michelob Ultra Arena. And all of a sudden, that convention floor experience is closed for a day. All of a sudden, over half the attendees can't engage with the finals anyways because seats are limited. We have been able to address that in part this year by being at the convention center. And so the tournament, the finals experience area, which is a full arena build out in a convention center, that expanded artist alley, the vendor village, the exhibitor hall, the arcade, the museums, the photo backdrops that are next to the cosplay competition, all of that's in one room. Makes for a very large room. And why I keep using the word festival lately, because walking around that experience is a walk, but having it all together at once means you kind of get to go to Evo and within the spread of fighting games, pick your own adventure for the weekend. Choose what's important to you to engage with, because the show is not telling you what to engage with at any time. You can pick and choose.
How many people are expected to attend Evo this year?
Well over 20,000 and climbing still, because tickets are available until the show is done.
That's incredible. That is a lot of people that are super into fighting games.
It's a beautiful
I
thing.
there was a question that came up when we were talking about, your experience with Evo and, the dichotomy between being a passionate fan, but also being the leader of the team that has to make sure that the show is running and all the wheels are spinning. I'm curious, knowing that you're the GM, have you influenced any of the selection of games at all? If you're like, this is the one that I really like, so I think we should pick this one instead. I would love to kind of peel back the curtain a little bit and what goes into that game selection.
So that would be really professionally irresponsible.
Oh, come
It
on.
would be. My favorite game doesn't mean it's the best game for the show or even a preferred game in the market right now.
Oh, that's fair.
What we're trying to do with Evo, and it's a little bit challenging because when you look at how the finals are set up, we can really only fit 8 games between Saturday morning and Sunday night and actually showcase a finals experience. I want to hit as big a breadth of the current market as we can. So we can touch on as many publishers or as many game styles or as many art styles, or dig into what is currently being played as possible. And then once we started including that throwback game 2 years ago with Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, also pick something from either the legacy of the event or the legacy of the genre that is active at the moment and can produce a callback that still has resonance today. And that's one of the reasons that having Street Fighter Third Strike this year on the anniversary of Moment 37, which was so pivotal to Evo developing kind of that zeitgeist that it has now, at the show is so cool. And I think if we can structure that balance successfully in the years ahead, this will stay a very engaging show and will keep a moment where you can discover fighting games or you can come through and enjoy how much you already love fighting games. As long as that balance is always kind of right in the middle, I think the show will be what it needs to be.
Do you think it's possible for people who are established video game players to enter the fighting game community, as like, let's say like a middle-aged gamer or even, somebody in their late 20s and early 30s who's been playing a lot of other genres? Sometimes I feel as a fan of specific fighting games, I would never look at myself as part of the FGC because I just don't practice enough to be good enough to really play all the time. And so I think it kind of feels a little daunting for people who are like, I would really love to get good at the new Street Fighter or Tekken 8, which came out earlier this year, but they maybe feel like they're a little bit on the outside. Do you think that FGC is an approachable place for players?
I think FGC, like chess or like a martial art, is a genre that requires investment. And I'm never going to lie to anybody and say that this is not going to take time. This is not going to take energy. It is. But if you want something that's a practiced activity in your life, fighting games are always available for that. And the genre is wide enough that there's always something new to learn. So as you pick up that language and you kind of invest into how you want to speak it, you're going to find other people who want to speak it with you, who maybe know an entire vocabulary that you haven't encountered yet. And by the end of that journey, you have something very, very satisfying. Are you going to win day one? No. Can you win coming from other games? Absolutely. Umisho came in and won EVO for Guilty Gear Strive, and she came from a completely different genre. Do I think that it's exceptionally easy if you are, I don't know, a 55-year-old gamer who wants to come in and be EVO champion? No, a 15-year-old kid's got a lot of free time that conceptually maybe you do not.
Correct.
But you also have a lot of life experience where conceptually you understand how to approach a game, how to train, how to manage your time so that you can get something out of every session. So in those regards, I think it's approachable. Not in that you're going to pick up and play and get an easy win, but is an incredibly, I think, captivating genre for self-discovery and self-improvement. And setting up a roadmap for that is very easy. There's tons of tools and resources at this point to help you learn a game or become a champion in a game. And that at that point, it just boils down to your commitment level, how much fun you're having with that commitment level, and if it's right for you.
I love that answer. Historically, skill-based activities, video games are in that, of course, have somewhat been exclusive to people who have not put the time in to learn those skills. And I know that there's two faces to the FGC. One face is the face we're going to see at EVO, passionate, caring people who just want to nerd out about these franchises and these characters, these fighters that they love, these players that they've been following. And there's such an air of like love and positivity that happens at a show like EVO. But then there's a darker side, right? This online toxicity that's persistent, some of the harassment issues and the inclusivity problem that the FGC has, grappled with in the past. Do you think that where the FGC is at now in 2024, that some of those past kind of skeletons in the closet are, bygones? Or do you think that there's still work to be done?
I think with inclusivity, you're never going to hit a point where there's not work to be done, because inclusivity by and large is about bringing more people together. And every time you bring a lot of people together about anything, you're bringing divergent people together. Finding middle grounds there, establishing social contracts, getting to where there is accepted norms of behavior takes time. With that said, do I think that the FGC is an interesting place for that, in how accepting it has been of players of just about every descriptor you can come up with over the years? Yes, but I think a lot of that, particularly recently, is because it's also culturally becoming expected for that to be a discussion, for that to be something that there's going to be a spotlight on, for that to be something where there's going to be expectations built around. And that's also just something that's accepted as normal now, that we need to do, that we're supposed to do, and that's going to continue.
If there are people who are listening to the show who are saying, I've seen the videos from EVO and it looks so cool and I want to go, but I don't know if I'd fit in. Like, where would you point them to go to be like, if you're interested in, coming to EVO and being part of this awesome community and feeling the love that I feel when I go and I'm part of this incredible fandom, start here?
So it's hard to say specifically where, because everybody's going to ask that question from all over the world. But
True.
I think the best part about fighting games is the answer to that is always the local tournament nearby, or try to find events that pop up on like the Capcom Pro Tour or the Tekken World Tour, or what Arxis has put together for their World Tour, because they're going to represent events in your region that are either just tournaments or are approaching convention scale, or a few of them are sized above that at this point. Those are places to go and experience camaraderie, to meet friends, to find rivals, to identify your tribe, because culturally there's going to be lots of subsets in that. Fighting games as a community is a global term, and it's for a ton of different games that come together at these events, almost like the Olympics. And so finding the group within that that is your group, I think, is pivotal to that generational fandom that we've talked about. It's also important to know that I think almost everyone can find that group if they're searching for that group.
I'm going to pivot to another question I have specifically about the show. Video games and technology have been moving at a breakneck pace. I feel like when you look at the evolution of the fighting game franchises, specifically in this new console generation and where PC technology is at, it's getting really fascinating, the data that players are using when they're going into a tournament like this. As somebody who has to oversee the technical teams that run EVO and just how crucial that component of the show is, what are some of the challenges and some of the issues that you and your team are facing to make sure that when the players are ready to, start fighting each other in these virtual video games, everything's ready to go?
So I think EVO is sometimes benefited by fighting games are still largely competed on consoles. So you're going to wind up with hardware that is consoleized. It's something that's ready for the competition out of the box. So what we have to deal with is making sure that when we're presenting that on stages, are you using equipment to capture that gameplay feed, get it up on the screen where it's not going to introduce more lag to the experience for the players? Are we getting hold of monitors that are going to be able to showcase the game in a positive way and also are low enough latency for a competition? Are we dealing with a show floor that's going to have access to vendors that have converters in case someone wants to come and play on a tournament this year on the PlayStation 5 with a first generation Nintendo controller?
Wait, don't tell me that someone's actually trying to do that. Is that possible?
I watched someone play in a fighting game tournament on a DDR pad.
Wow.
I watched them win a game on a DDR pad, which sounds like it should be more impressive than playing on the DDR pad. I think just playing at it on all is actually the impressive achievement. But that's another fun part of fighting games. Because it has been such a DIY genre, just culturally there's an expectation for that. We have thousands of competitors that show up at the show where they have made their own peripheral to play on. And so there are hundreds of different devices at every show where that's one of the other components from a tech side that you have to be conscious of. There's going to be someone who sits down to play on something they might have made in their living room. Can they use it? And if it doesn't work, can you resolve it so it can be used quickly? And if not, is there somewhere you can point them to go get a peripheral that will actually function?
A big part of EVO, of course, are games from the past and reliving some iconic franchises and some iconic titles that fans in the FGC absolutely love. But there's also a spotlight on new games. In fact, several big franchises have put out new iterations in just the last couple of years, a couple of which are being featured at the show this weekend. Where do you see the future of fighting games going, and what are you excited about?
You have returning franchises next year. Something like Fatal Fury is coming back from SNK for the first time in a long time in a package that honestly looks beautiful. They're taking all the new technologies available to them to craft something that looks engaging. You have new properties entering the space. 2XKO is coming out with Riot, and there's a not insignificant sized League of Legends fandom that will probably pay attention to fighting games for the first time ever, just as part of that. There are other titles in the works. There are other legacy titles coming back. We just saw Marvel and Capcom announced that the entire history of that franchise up through Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is going to be available in a single package for the first time coming up. I think you start putting those types of recipes out, there's just no way not to get a meal that encourages more people to eat.
Oh, you've been practicing that one, or did you just come up with it?
No, the slow speech is usually because I get very high anxiety if I have to practice for an interview. So I do very, very little prep work, or otherwise I wind up canceling interviews. And we haven't talked before, so that didn't want that to happen for this one. So all the good things that have been said today, pretty much spur of the moment. All the things that maybe shouldn't have been said today, also spur of the moment. That's the knife edge that I live on.
You've been doing great. This is awesome. I love that we've been getting to chat about this. I want to ask you, last year at EVO, you got a Canon Award, which is a pretty high honor, and I would love to hear about what that meant to you.
That meant a lot for, I think, 2 reasons. When I got into this community, started attending my first EVO, I got to see people acknowledged for doing things for the community, for impacting things on a cultural level without it being just in the game. And it shifted some of my life goals legitimately at the time from I just want to be great at playing the games to I want to be able to do something that is beneficial enough to a wide enough people that some of the people that I am looking up to at the moment that have this piece of acrylic that I can kind of step next to and exist in space with. And along the way, that award got retired. And one of the conversations I had with the canons that apparently took root in them is that I had wanted to do something in my life worthy of that recognition because that meant something to me, even if it didn't mean the same thing to them. And so after I had taken this role and we got through the first year of the show, they chose to bring that award back, both to award it to me and have the grand gesture that comes with that, and then also to burden me with the responsibility of now being part of the committee that has to continue that award's legacy and come up with the people that we are going to award in the future, that we are going to put that spotlight on, and the things that they are doing for the community or for the market that warrant that attention.
I would say you did it to yourself, but I think it's a happy thing that you did it to yourself because obviously you earned that recognition and now you get to give that recognition to somebody else, and the feeling that you got when you got your award, somebody else is going to get in the future.
Yeah. It's one of the few things in my office. I see it every day. It is a renewable source of inspiration. Like being able to potentially offer that to someone else is very, very cool. And so as an event, we're very proud to be awarding those again. But personally, I'm very happy that exists because I'm hoping that does for anyone else what that meant to me, because I think that's very, very valuable in fighting games, not only producing more people who care about more things I don't know. I just think it's good to have things that recognize people for effort.
Absolutely. Recognition is incredibly important. You nailed it. All right, to wrap it up, what's the future of EVO hold? It can be something that you guys are actively working on that you're excited about, or it could be if I had a dream thing I could do at EVO, this is what I would do, even if it never comes true.
Personal level, dream of EVO is can we do things with fighting games that exist at the show that can then exist outside of the show to still bring people into fighting game fandom. The art museum is a great example for this year. Take the art gallery that we put together on site at the show floor. Is there a version of that can exist at MoMA? Because I would love the outcome of being able to create things that live on both inside EVO and outside of EVO.
Yeah, traveling exhibit. Very cool.
Could be fun. EVO specifically, though, bring more players in and create more opportunities for more people to play these games, understand these games, fall in love with these games. That goal is not going to change. That's what EVO is working on every day of the week. It's what I want EVO to be working on 20 years from now. That's the goal that matters.
EVO Academy it is.
Hell yeah.
Let's put that out into the universe. There's gonna be a school that people can go to, and then they can meet their mentors at EVO, and there'll be a whole thing. You could take classes. I love this idea.
Well, let's see if we can get it come to fruition then.
We just got to get someone to pay for it, right? Who's ready?
There's your
Who's got the dollars?
your universal problem for all good ideas.
100% always the problem. Who's going to pay for it? Well, Rick, this has been such a lovely conversation. Thank you so much for making the time. We're very excited to see all of the action that is going down at EVO. If people are in the area of Las Vegas and want to come on down, like where do people go to get information, and what can they expect to do while they're there?
Well, you can get more information at evo.gg. You can pick up tickets at start.gg/evo. You can come to the Las Vegas Convention Center West Hall next week, starting on Thursday, which is the 18th. I'm losing track of time, to pick up a day pass, pick up a weekend pass, get into the show floor. Once you're there, you can play fighting games till your eyes bleed. You can enjoy art museums. You can enjoy peripheral galleries. You can enjoy cosplay and photo ops. We have a exhibitor area that is the largest it has ever been, with hands-on demos for upcoming games and brand new releases. We have a vendor village that has both in-community favorites and traveling in companies. We have the largest artist alley we've ever put together, curated for people who focus on fighting game characters and fighting game lore. If you want to decorate your house with fighting game anything, this is an easy weekend to make that an achieved goal in an afternoon. And then we have the finals on Saturday and Sunday, where for 10 hours, we're going to have 8 games featuring 6 of the best competitors in the world per game, earning that right to say that they're EVO champion.
Yeah. It sounds so amazing. Thank you again for chatting with me today. We will put all of those links that he mentioned in the show notes down below. And EVO is happening in Las Vegas starting July 18th. And hope everyone has a fantastic time. Stay hydrated, everybody.
Please.
Riana, someday I hope that you and I can attend EVO together, because there's truly nothing like being in the room watching the final showdown happen between competitors surrounded by like 10,000 people. It's truly electric.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. I've never been to anything of that caliber that has to do with gaming. Like, obviously been to sporting events, but I think one day I'll go. It's on the bucket list for sure.
Yes, I will. I would love to be there with you. And what I think is so wonderful about EVO versus other esports is that it's so much more approachable to casual and hardcore fans. I mean, we hear all the time from other esports genres like MOBAs or shooters. They also have that really invigorated fan base at their tournaments. Like, I've heard similar things about, going to like the Worlds for League and being in the room watching that high level play. But boy, it's way more difficult to understand what's happening on screen watching League of Legends high-end professional play, or Overwatch professional play, and Call of Duty professional play, right? Versus Street Fighter. And as a casual player, or even as somebody who's never played fighting games, you can still see that one player is hitting another player. And you don't necessarily need to know like the data of the frame rates and like what moveset or combos they're using to have enjoyment in watching that. And I think that's what makes EVO so successful for people who are maybe on the outskirts of being fighting game fans.
That's me.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. And to anybody who is going to EVO, congrats, and let us know how it is.
Yes. If you guys want to learn more, as I mentioned at the end of the interview, we have those links in the show notes. It's happening in Las Vegas next week. And Riana, it was so lovely to get to see you, and hopefully we can play some video games soon. I know you and I have been talking about diving into the First Descendant finally.
Yeah, we need to get into that. I'm curious about it because I've heard it compared to the first Destiny and other games that we like quite a bit. So looking forward to trying it out. And then I still need to get through Destiny. Still need to get through
Let's
Final
go.
Shape.
We can do it together. The What's Good Guardians are there for us.
They are. They're always there.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget, if you have a free moment, leave us a 5-star review. Give us a couple words on Apple or on Spotify. All you got to do is click rating and click 5 stars. It's that simple. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, and you help support the show. Love you guys. Bye.